Talking on the Love Chevrolet phone lines now with us about Vanderbilt. Got Chris Lee from VandySports.com. Chris, first of all, appreciate your time. Once again, spoke to you a few weeks ago. We started off the show talking about Diego Pavia popping up on the injury report. Is listed as probable, which means he's definitely going to play on Saturday, but banged up nonetheless. What can you tell us about what Pavia has been dealing with and what percentage he might be at going into Saturday?
Well, look, one of our writers was at the Georgia State game. Gosh, that's been, the third game of the year, and was watching warm-up, said, hey, man, he's limping coming out here. So Diego Pavia has been playing banged up for a long, long time. Now, look, I'm going to guess that the severity of that has wavered week to week because you've seen some games where he's made some big plays. And I remember the Texas game, they had a 3rd and 12 from the 18 or whatever, and he gets outside and he wins a foot race to the end zone. And so you've seen some times since then where he was good and looked effective, but then you saw some times like Saturday where he just didn't have any burst against Auburn, and it really hurt what they wanted to do. So I think this kid's been playing banged up since week one. Some weeks it didn't look like it. Some weeks it did. And what we're going to get Saturday, I don't know. I mean, I think if you're Vanderbilt, if you could flip that bye week from next week to this week, you'd love to take that, but that's not the choice they have. And so I think it's anybody's guess what we'll see Saturday. But based what I saw of the Auburn game, I think I've got some concerns there.
Hey, Chris, it's Wes. Appreciate you taking the time today, man. And I'm curious, coming into this season, were there some signs that you saw that this turnaround could be about to take place, or did it kind of hit everyone there locally as surprisingly as maybe everybody outside of Nashville?
Well, we went to fall camp, and the offense was just dreadful for so much of it. And we're, I think, maybe the only beat in the SEC that gets access to fall camp. And so we got to see all of it. And some days we would just look at each other and go, I don't know how they're going to move the ball. And then the season started, and they're, perplexing everybody. And now, in our take leaving camp was, we thought the defense had a chance to be maybe better than people thought under Clark Lee. So, no, I didn't see this coming, but you always knew with Jerry Kill and Tim Beck. You saw what they did at Auburn last year. Jerry Kill is a tremendous football coach. So you always thought there's a chance. Is their talent on offense going to allow it? I don't know. Now we've reached a point in the season where I think both those things are kind of true. They've had a really good offensive year. Maybe what they're doing is starting to get taken away a little bit, but the defense suddenly has played really well. The defense is winning them games right now. Clark Lee is very quietly, in serving as his own defensive coordinator, turned around that side of the ball. And they do some things that Carolina can – have been problematic for Carolina. They do force some turnovers from time to time. So it's been a weird year. It hasn't played out exactly like I thought it would, but it's been interesting. And right now I think they're leaning more on the defense than they are the offense.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go next, Chris, in asking about the defense. Every week I put together a star power comparison. Basically, where does South Carolina's starters, how are they ranked, right, out of high school, junior college, the portal, and then their opponent. And, we know that Vandy brought in, 24 transfers this offseason. They've certainly improved the talent of their roster, but they still have, I think 2 starters, that are 4 stars.
Yeah.
But every single week, they look like they belong. I mean, they belong with Texas, who's one of the most star-laden teams in the country. So when you're looking at the defense specifically, is it just that they're well-coached and experienced? Are they more talented than we think? What is it?
I think it's a lot of things. I think that on the back end, they've got some pretty good safety play. You saw DeRicky Wright and C.J. Taylor both get named as some third-team All-SEC type teams, and he's not even the best one they got. The best player on their defense is a kid right now named Brandon Fontenette, who transferred from TCU, where he was just kind of a piece last year. They recruited him out of high school. He's been a stud for Vanderbilt. They've got Langston Patterson at linebacker, who's was supposed to be one of the best linebackers in the league come into the year. He's been kind of quiet. He's been banged up some, has missed some games, missed the Kentucky game. And I think up front, they don't have anybody that you would just circle as a star, but they've got, 8, 9, 10, 11 guys that they can rotate, and they're getting it done that way. But I think the big thing has been coaching. Last year, the year before, you would watch them, and they weren't the fastest defense, but also they didn't take good pursuit angles. It felt like teams would get a guy in space and there was nobody around with an angle to make a tackle. This year, I think sideline to sideline, they're much better in pursuit, much better in discipline and spacing, and I think that's what's made them better, the combination of they got a little more talent through the portal, and I think Clarkley has coached them miles better than Nick Howell, who they fired in the offseason as their coordinator, did.
And talking to Chris Lee from VandySports.com, you mentioned directly right at free safety, and Coach Beamer alluded to him earlier on this week as he's going to present a challenge with his size being at 6'4" and 217, which is large for somebody at that spot, particularly when it comes to run defense. What challenges have you seen him present to opponents this year so far?
Well, he's big and he's athletic. He's a guy that a lot of people have felt probably should have been a linebacker more than he should have been a safety. And he was the guy, he got singled out so many times by fans as a guy that missed a coverage or just wasn't fast enough. This may be a case where the scheme has helped them because you don't hear him getting called out as much. It seems like he's played better. Now, health has been a little bit of a question. He seemed like a guy who, is down about every other game and comes out, but usually comes back the next week. Did come out of the Auburn game last week before coming back, so I don't know if health is an issue there, but I feel like maybe between the health and the system, he's had a better year.
Chris, let's talk a little bit more about Diego Pavia, and I've been amazed at the ability to walk the line between being this just playmaking guy that can scramble around, put the ball in some tight windows, extend plays to the left or the right, throw against his body. But then also you look at some of the PFF stuff, you look at his interception numbers. He's not turned the ball over and hasn't even really put the ball in danger in the passing game. How has he been able to be, you get to watch him every week, how has he been able to be so dynamic in kind of making those plays but not falling into the trap you see of a lot of those dynamic guys where he's not, it doesn't appear he's putting the ball in danger. Is that the case watching him every week?
That's absolutely the case. Look, he is not the biggest guy, not the fastest guy. Somebody tweeted this out, and I thought it was perfect. He is like just faster than whoever's chasing him, although I think we're getting diminishing returns on that with the injury. But I think the thing that stands out to me, he may be the smartest football player I have ever covered. He will make these throws that are sometimes high degree of difficulty, but nobody's going to catch it other than his receiver, and if he doesn't catch it, it's going out of bounds. His ability to make that kind of throw game after game after game has been amazing. He rarely throws a bad ball. He threw in a little bit of a bad habit or fell into a little bit of a bad habit against Texas where they fell behind. I think he was trying to make some plays. The pass rush was getting after him, didn't have a lot of time. I think it was like either I make this throw and it may not go well, but if I can't come up with some miracle, we're not going to win the game. So there's been elements of that. But it was just in really that one small spot. He almost never throws an interceptable ball, at least so far this season. And his decision-making on just for the moment, okay, I've got to make a decision in a split second. Am I going to keep it? Am I going to pass it? It's amazing. He will do things sometimes that you're just not expecting to see him do. Does he have some athleticism? Yes. Does he have touch on the ball? Yes. But it is what he does in just that moment of decision where he's got 3 or 4 options. His ability to make the right call time after time after time is like few players that I've ever seen.
Chris, last one for you here. Got right about 60 seconds. These are two pretty similar teams coming in. What's the biggest key going to be for Vanderbilt on Saturday?
Well, I think it's Pavia's health. I'm concerned about that. Vanderbilt does do some things that can give Carolina problems. Again, they've turned it over 5 times all year. I don't know what they are in turnover margin right now, but I think it's a top 20 number in the country. Carolina's had problems with that, with fumbles, with picks and things like that. So I think that's a place where the advantage tilts for Vanderbilt potentially But I am worried about Pavia, especially because Carolina's defense is so good at every level. The guy that I saw last week was not the guy that's been winning them games, just because I don't think his health allowed it enough. So I think the key is, did he get well and energized in practice this week, where they were going to try to keep him manage his load a little bit more? And I think that's probably the key. If he looks better, I think they've got more of a shot. If he doesn't, I think I'd have to lean heavily towards Carolina.
He's Chris Lee from VandySports.com. Appreciate your time once again, and excited to see what happens Saturday in Nashville.
Hey, thanks, guys.